So now in terms of selling my own fish that I'm going to go out and catch, I've already established what my cost structure is here, right? This is my cost structure. And now that I've seen that some of these folks down there on Pike Place Market Street are selling fish and making some good money from it, maybe some more than others, there are just so many sellers, they can't really, they're selling the same product, we charging the same price. And obviously, there are a lot of buyers that can go in there and choose at will which vendor they want to purchase from. So I've established my cost structure, the cost analysis in the short run here, and I've got my marginal costs and my average total costs. Recall this is essentially the same. It's average total cost. And so I go down to the market and say, you know what, I'm going to jump in here. And you'll recall one of the conditions for perfect competitions. There's no barriers to entry or exit, right? I could just go right in and set up shop and start selling. But if I know what I'm doing, if I'm smart, I'm going to want to charge what the prevailing market price is, being a price taker as a fisherman, as a fish salesman. So I head down to Pike Place Market. I've got my fish ready to go. I see all these folks lined up. I'm saying, well, this is pretty much takes on all the characteristics of a perfectly competitive marketplace, perfectly competitive economy. So it looks like I'm going to be selling my fish that I catch for $35. That's the price. Price. So very important. We're going to put price at $35. So, what does that mean for us on the cost analysis curve graph? Let's put that down there real quick right now. And now we have a little bit of a new look to our graph. I have put our price level at $35. It's $35 each per fish. You can see up here. So that tracks because everybody else down here in the market is doing it. That's what I'll be doing too. So if I sell one fish, what's my total revenue? Total revenue if I sell one fish. One fish. Well, total revenue at one unit of output, we'll say, keep it sort of economic here. Well, my total revenue now is going to be $35, right? What if I sold four? What if I had four fish? My total revenue then is going to be $140. It's $140. Okay, so that's total revenue. That's with each unit of output I sell. There's 35, 35, 35, 35. And now is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we can look at this and go, okay, that's our total revenue if we take the price of each unit and multiply it by its price. But what would marginal revenue be? Much like how we calculated marginal cost, if we want to produce one additional unit of output, it's going to cost this much for that additional unit of output, correct? But marginal revenue is a little different. We're looking at the price curve, this orange line here, and it is certainly not curved like the marginal cost curve is. It's absolutely horizontal. So what would our marginal revenue be? Let's clean this up a bit and we can kind of determine what that is. If our total revenue is our price times our output, how many that we've sold, our marginal revenue is basically how much more money, how much more revenue, I should say revenue really, revenue, but we can, right. How much more revenue am I going to earn by selling an additional unit of output? Or, another fish, right? So if I sell one fish from 0, my total revenue is obviously $35. But my marginal revenue from going from 0 to 1 is 35. That's the additional revenue I realized by selling one unit. So I just made my first sale of the day. Maybe, hopefully, it was of my first catch of the day as well, but we can all dream. So I went from 0 to 1, and on the margin, I made $35, which is right here. It's the price of fish. And then another customer comes along and says, hey, I'd like to buy a fish, please. Sure, yeah, no problem. Well, good day so far. I've sold, now I've sold 2 fish. I went from 1 to 2 in sales, and the price is $35. So 35 here, 35 here. Now, for each additional unit of output, I'm making another $35. So if I go from 2 to 3, or if I go from 4 to 5, or 8 to 9, or 7 to 10, my marginal revenue is $35. That's my marginal revenue. And keep in mind, just because somebody bought 4 fish at, what is that, about $140, that's fine, but you do have to take, your change in your revenue, change in, say, your revenue divided by your change in output. So if I had somebody buy 4 fish from me, that's $140, but my output sold went up by 4, so that's going to be 4. 4 goes into 140. 35 times. So there you go. So you could sell 4 at a time, 1 at a time, but each additional unit of output that you sell is what your marginal revenue is. And here, because this price curve, and we'll talk curves here in a moment, shows a marginal revenue of $35 because it is perfectly horizontal. Perfectly horizontal. So you sell here, you sell here, you sell here, you sell here. $35, $35, $35. That's your marginal revenue. So let's add another wrinkle here to this this price curve that we have. We see here our marginal revenue is determined for each additional output that we sell. We gain an additional $35 on the margin, right? So marginal revenue is $35. The first thing we wrote up here, though, was price is $35. So, frankly, because we're in these units of these single units on our x-axis, essentially, marginal revenue equals price here, doesn't it, in this scenario? So with that, we can do this. Price equals marginal revenue. Marginal revenue. We can actually take this curve a step further. You'll remember the elasticities of demand. Inelastic, elastic. In perfect competition, you could sell 1, 3, 5, 7, but no matter what, that price is not going to change because we are going this direction, right, on this horizontal curve. Now that is where buyers and sellers equilibrium. That's where buyers and sellers agree that these consumers are saying, yeah, $35, that's a good deal, and that's what we're going to pay. But since this market is flooded with fishermen, flooded with sellers, they're all going to just charge the same price. They are price takers. So the sellers agree, yeah, we can sell this for $35, and we'll find out why here in the next video. And consumers are saying, well, we will pay $35 for that, for each additional fish. So if the sellers have agreed on a selling price and buyers have agreed on a buying price, then that would be where supply and demand sort of intersect at equilibrium, where we have sort of agreed that this curve can also be our demand curve. Could also be our demand curve. And if we want to take it a step further and think about supply, well, when we discussed that previously, we said that the supply curve, which is upward sloping, is the price that sellers are willing to sell their product. If there is more output, right, then obviously the costs are going to go up. So we'll get to this, we'll revisit this in a little bit, but something to just tuck in the back of your mind right now, the marginal cost curve for the individual firm in a perfectly competitive market. A firm's marginal cost curve does act as the firm's supply curve. Firm's supply curve. So we have an intersection here that we're going to explore a little bit more in depth. We'll do that in the next video. I try to keep these a little bit short. I'll clean this up, and then we will look at where we are going to start realizing some profit maximization points. But thing to take away from here is how this horizontal line reflects price, which reflects marginal revenue, which reflects demand. And again, our marginal cost curve, as a firm by themselves, somewhat reflects the supply curve of that firm. So read up on that in the notes, and I will come back with the third and final video on perfect competition and where we determine our profit maximization. Stay tuned.